getting educated. And so it got to the point to where that Mr. Wolf, he recognized me. And at that time, well, I kind of still am. I was bowling, so he kind of took me in with that, He called me Little Man. And I was pretty much his go-for. Okay. Because he and Hubert, they get into it. And Hubert down the street playing, another man. He called me, hey, little man, come here, go down there and tell Hubert I said come here.
So he really did talk like that, that really talk.
Yes. And it was a quarter, Mr. Wolf. So I go down there to tell him, tell him I ain't coming. I was running back. I'm running from Kinsey to Sacramento. That's like a couple blocks. And so I run back. Well, after I got my quarter. So I'm back and forth, And one particular time, I'm back there, and Wolf saw me. He said, come here, little man. And he was, I don't know if he was mocking me or making fun of me or not, but he said, he's gonna be a great guitar player. And he put me up on the stage. I didn't play anything because I didn't know how to play. But I was his like little man. I was his little man, And from that point on, it was in me, And association brings about assimilation, So by me associating myself with it, I couldn't see nothing in the world that I wanted to do but. Even in school, if they had me write an essay, and in my 8th grade graduate class, it says, what would you like to be? What is your goal in life? I said, play guitar. So I actually had a guitar when I was about 7 years old. And me and my stepdad, we would go back in the room, and he had an old harmonica, and he come in kind of tanked up, so and we go back there and we'd ram a little bit, But I didn't get professional until around 69, something like 68, 69. That's what but all the while now, I was shooting away from my boys, and I'd go home and get my guitar, lock myself in the washroom. That's because I could hear. So my dad come in and he fell on the guitar. and broke all the strings on it but one. So now here I am. At that time we couldn't afford no guitar. But here I am with that one string and this thumb. That's why I play with this thumb right now. And at one string, I can go along with whatever's going on there. I can go along with it. But finally, when I finally got to where that I understood, and I tried to go to school for guitar, but which was the right thing, but it was wrong for me at the time. Because coming up there now, I got to the point where I could hit a few licks, and during that time, West Montgomery.
Okay.
West Montgomery, well, you had all those guitar players, Frank and Kenny Burrell and all those. I was like to these guys. And everybody, well, I did wanted to be a hot shot. So instead of staying in school, which I should have, and got theory, and got, taken all the way back and come up with it. Instead of me doing that, me a hot shot, I'm out there with the fellas, thinking I'm doing something with it. That's why I can't read music right now today. But I play by ear, and I'm very, got an exceptional ear. Like when I'm playing, I hear everything that goes on. Everything, I can hear it. And it's been a ride. Now Martha riding me now.
That's good.
But it's a lot of fun. And so when it comes down to, I saw all of them, and John Lee Hooker, I played with him. That was back in 1992. We were at Eric Crown Theater. At that time, it was having the Benson and Hedges Blues Fest. Yeah. One night they would have the guys, and then the next night they would have the diva. Okay. So on this particular set, there was, of course, Willie Dixon. I'm with John Lee, Sam Lee. Matter of fact, Sam Lee had died. John Lee.
Okay.
Elvin Bishop, Dr. John, Big Daddy Kinsey, Lester Davenport, and there was a few more. But these were the big guys, you know. And Big Daddy Kinsey, I said that, Big Daddy Kinsey and the Kinsey Report, and all these guys. And that point, now that was a highlight. You know? Now, funny thing, I had work and I had surgery on my elbows, and my hands were like claws like. So I was so scared. I was going to get on the stage and then climb up. But we worked it out. Yeah, and that's what it's been a year. I've been with a lot of them. Yeah, all the biggies I know. They know.
I have a question. How did you come to meet Elmore James?
Well, during the time I was playing with Johnny Dollar. Have you ever heard of him?
I heard Johnny.
Okay, I was playing with Johnny. And Johnny introduced me to Elmore. And Elmore was playing down with Teresa's at that time.
Okay.
And Sammy Lawhorn, well, John Primer, he and I, we started a band together.
Really?
Yeah, and my first band was called Sucker Brotherhood. And he left John left our band to go with Sammy Lawhorn. From there, he went with Coco,
Okay.
then to Magic Slam.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was something like that, yeah. But he's one of my good friends. He just won a big award. He's picking up awards every year. And so I met Elmo back during that time, you know, when I was young, you know. And they just like the way I play, the way I sound. But I mean, playing with this thumb, I think it had a different tone to it, you know. And they like my tone.
And between his steel and your thumb, that made a unique sound.
Yeah. See, it's the difference. See, a lot of people, like with them strings, you get one side coming up, and another side going down. Yeah.
Who was your favorite artist that you might have worked with?
Well, it's been a lot of them. But my favorite that I worked with personally was Johnny Dollar. Johnny Dollar, he was quite the character. He was a real cutter, but he could play. And he would tell me we would play at Lily's up on Lincoln Avenue. Go to such and such key. I'll go there. I said, what am I gonna do? He just take off with it, you know. He playing, singing, and telling me what notes to hit. All this.
But you couldn't read music, so how did, it was just ear?
Well, yeah, that too, but I know my instrument.
Oh,
You know.
okay.
I know. See, each one of them keys got a
Scale.
Okay.
Each one of those strings, yeah. And then you got frets on the guitar.
You have what?
Frets. You know, that's on the guitar neck.
He used to bring in guitars so he could show 'em.
Exactly. I don't know why. We aren't
I
hearing.
should have.
You
That's
should have, because
absolutely.
the layman doesn't know it because they don't play.
Right.
And they see the guitars it's almost like a soundboard. You walk into a soundboard, you see all them knobs, and you say, oh my God, how could you operate this? But even though it's 48 rows, each knob does the same thing. One is bass, one is treble, one is your mid-range, with the same thing on the guitar. This, a certain fret is maybe a B. There's different fret underneath the bar, because the bars is also scales. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, you know, like you probably learned in school. You know, like do, re, mi, fa, so. Okay, those frets are the do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do. So after you've been playing for so long, you know, if he say F major, he knows where, even though you might write on a scale F major, he might not know it. If you tell him F major, he knows third bar, fifth fret is the F major. So he knows how to hit it. That's why I said you should have brought the guitar.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd bring your bass. I wanted to say one thing is that the guitars and basses developed here, but the basis of the blues is not guitars and basses or anything. It is the human voice and the rhythm. And that's the way music is all over the world, you know. Africa, of course, the best known for the drumming, and you also could go to Japan, and they have those great big drums where you jump up and down. Yeah. Well, you know, that's where music starts, is a voice and a rhythm. And where it gets really interesting is when these other instruments come in, and but people mistake that the instrument is the blues. No, it is not. It's the story.
Right, right.
And that's where the white interpretation goes wrong. It dwells on the instrument, and it creates stars, and this is people's music, and is a rhythm that the people have and the stories that the people have.
And they say that that a lot of gospel artists started with gospel and then it turned into the blues. Can you kind of explain that to us?
Well, gospel actually is the root of it all.
Right.
It's the what?
It's the root of it all.
It's the root of it all. So the blues is coming from gospel. It's not gospel coming from blues. See what I'm saying? And it has that feeling. You know, well, you in church, you hear that choir, or you sing up there, and you'll get a feeling. Okay. When you're out there playing that blues, you're gonna get that same feeling. For real.
Can I interject real quick? I'll give you a great example. You've heard, I know all y'all heard, Millie Collier, I had to talk with my man last night. Okay, that was originally, I had to talk with my God.
That's right.
The difference between blues and gospel is my life was miserable, I found God, God showed me the way. Blues is, I was down my last dime, I was drinking wine, I met a woman that was so fine, and she brought me up. That's the difference. In blues, you found a woman or a man. In gospel, you found God.
Can I say something? This young man I met several years ago he appeared on the show with Tail Dragon, and he called himself the Dirty Deacon. He said, blues ain't nothing but dirty church. That's what he called it. And matter of fact, they had one in the band, his name was, he called himself the Dirty Church. But this young man, he could play that guitar. We had videos of him. I have to go back through my videos and see if I can't find this young man. And that boy stood up on the chair and turned that guitar upside down and played. I mean, he put on a show. And that's what he said. He said the blues ain't nothing but dirty church.
Never heard that.
That brings us to a discussion we started with earlier when just a few of us were here about the dirty lyrics of today's music and how does the blues relate to that? And I really want to hear this. What do people say about that?
Blues are more subtle, right?
Blues, right, blues are in your window.
Exactly.
You know, like, it's a song called, if you listen to a rap song, they're gonna be explicit. I went out and ate this and did that. In the blues, he'll say, hey, everything I like to eat starts with P. Well, then you ain't gotta be explicit. Your mind's gonna take you immediately to where with rap songs, it ain't nothing left to your mind. With blues, it's subtle, and you know what they talking about, but they could say it in a public room. They could say it in the library, and nobody gonna be offended, but everybody in the room knows exactly what they're talking about. So blues is more innuendo, and you know, with a wink, you know, as compared to rappers with a sledgehammer.
Pretty much. With a little sugar, it's like, oh, what are you talking about?
And they also say, you can't sing the blues, not the real blues, unless you have lived the blues.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Now, those are the words of tail drag.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Because my host, she always says, I'll play a song. Y'all remember when that song came out? I was crying like a baby because I broke up with somebody. She said, men don't cry, men. I said, every blues song is a man crying about a woman that done left him. So don't tell me men don't cry.
Do you want to talk about Elmore James a little bit? We wish he had been here tonight.
Well, I don't have a lot to say, except that's my pop daddy. He has been around our family for quite a long time, and he has passed along. He always encourages us to listen to different types of music, classical, blues, and not just gospel. And so it's just a matter of loving music all the way across the board, and he showed us how to appreciate that, brought it out of us. Mostly. And plus he's fun.
He is fun. This story about reconciling with his dad, can you tell that story?
Well, I can't tell that story. It's not my story to tell. But he did share with us at one point when he was younger, and he finally did get with his father. His father gave him a guitar, and they shared the guitar together, and he got a chance to play with him. And so from that point on, he was just enamored of being Elmo James Jr.
Elmo James Sr. was one of the founding fathers of Chicago blues. In the same era that Howlin Wolf, Muddy Waters, Memphis Minnie, my partner Larry Taylor's dad, Eddie Taylor, Jimmy Reed, there were just a whole lot of them. And Elmo he had a big hit with, several big hits.
Yes.
What were the biggest ones?
That's my broom.
Dust My Broom, yeah. And then he didn't know his father for a long time, is that right?
Not for a long time, but he'd always known that
He
his
knew who he
his father
was, but he hadn't met him. And then he came up here.
Again, that's not my story.
I know it's not my story.
I don't want to tell a story and have any of the details blown out of proportion or not even given enough attention. So we'll just wait until he
We'll
comes
wait till
back.
he comes
He's
and
gone
get in.
fishing. So once he catches and comes back, then we'll know.
Yes. Go ahead, Carl.
No, that was something I was trying to find. I was wanted to show you, and excuse me, in relation to what I was saying about the feeling. As this young man, he plays guitar, he kind of plays it with a slide, but it plays it. He said this is where he gets his feeling, when he's feeling down, which is true, because I've been there myself, feeling down. I pick up my guitar. All my ills go away. Yeah. You get to that point. You get to that point.
Yes,
I chop vegetables, I go in the kitchen and start chopping vegetables.
Because you release.
Yeah.
That's your mind.
I just go into zen zone.
I like crafts, arts, and my glue gun.
Yes.
And bedazzle, fix up a hat and just put some rhinestones or pearls on it.
That's your zen place.
That's my zen place.
And it's kind of like your personal achievement thing, because that's something you did. You know, your mind was free, you went to creating, and you made a beautiful dish. You made a creation that somebody wants to buy or wear. Even nobody wears it but yourself. And we all got our zen points or ourselves. Because my philosophy, everybody got at least one, even no matter how bad you think your voice is, everybody got one song they can sing. And like this lady said earlier, it's a song that brings out some emotion because it's experience that you lived or you felt. And that's why you can sing that song. And they say, my kids used to joke, my kids used to say they used to get mad at me because every time me and their mother had an argument, she would put on Natalie Cole, I'm Catching Hell. And they said, we hated that record and we was mad at you because y'all talk, you leave the house and we hear I'm Catching Hell for the next 4 hours. But it's something that reminds you of something that happened in your life, be it gospel, be it a blues song, whatever. Why music is the soundtrack of your life. And certain songs make you think about certain days. You'll say, oh, well, I remember me and Mabel, we went to so-and-so and so-and-so. And, you know, because and most of the time, it's not bittersweet memories.
Yeah.
It make you smile and make you take you back.
Yeah. Ooh, no.
I had the pleasure of meeting J.R. Barnside. And that was, I was his special guest when he played at the House of Blues. And it was his retiring tour. That was his last. And the love that the people gave him was, it was astounding. I mean, they was laying all on the stage begging him not to retire. Wow. And, you know, unfortunately, the next year he passed away. But I appreciated having the pleasure of meeting him. And like I said, I was his special guest. It was coming up to my birthday. And we sit in the dressing room. And he drank wild turkey. And he told me some stories. I mean, he told me some stories about his life. And you know, he has a son now that sings the blues. And he told me the story about the young man, you know. But I'm telling you, just meeting him was outstanding.
Anybody
One of the greats.
got any other favorite blues artists that they've met and want to talk about? Either here or somewhere else. How about King George? Can you tell us a little about your radio show and how you got to start it or whatever? What the history of that is?
Okay, I'll do that. But I talked about, I interviewed Howlin Wolf's daughters because Friday is the anniversary of Howlin Wolf's 113th birthday, and they're celebrating it out at the Blues Fest. But first 2 blues records I remember liking, and it makes me think about what she said was 3. I gotta say 3. The first one was High Heel Sneakers. I think that was Tommy Edwards. Little Red Rooster, which I thought was originally Sam Cooke, but I found out that it was Howlin Wolf and Willie Dixon.
Yeah.
And Baby Scratch My Back. And I liked them because with the lyrics that seemed so cool. Scratch my back, it was a line, and he said, oh, I know you can do it, so baby, get to it. And I was like 11 or 12, so that's the coolest line I've never heard. And it made me start liking the blues. I started DJing. I started playing music when I was about 9 or 10. I'm sure half of y'all, if not all of y'all, can remember the little blue and white Sears Silvertone record players that you get at Sears. You know, you open up, there was blue and white little cloth speaker in the front, and they had the built-in disc in the middle. So I would, back in them days, every Sears had 45 for 49 cents. And my allowance was $10, so $5 went on comic books and $5 went on records. So I would play the record and I would have my little hairbrush. I said, yeah, this was high heel sneakers by Thomas Tucker. We got Tommy Tucker in the studio today, and we're going to interview him. So how you doing, Tommy? And I make a Tommy voice and do it like that. So I started doing that. When I got in college, I had a house, and so after the parties, we would always come to my house, and I had music. But when we would hire a DJ for a set, and I said, well, do you have this, or do you have that, or do you have this? And he would always say, no, I ain't never heard it, I ain't got it, I ain't bought it yet. And I come back to the house and I play it. So my little frats, my fraternity boys say, why are we paying the DJ and you got all the music? And I said, well, I ain't got no equipment and stuff. And so they said, well, we'll buy you some equipment. So they bought me some equipment, and I've been DJing ever since. I got on the radio, I was playing at Leo Something Cool Lounge. This was like late 90s. And Brenda Phillips, who still plays jazz on WHPK on Sundays, is the Phillips twins. She said, I like the way you play. And she introduced me to a guy at WHPK, and I started playing on there. But before then, I was kind of singing with Richard McGee. Right. And I'm sure most of y'all know who Richard McGee, got a funny name, right? And I was kind of like his engineer, so he kind of like groomed me. I was doing it, but I wasn't Richard. Richard was making big money, and everybody knew who he was, and he had a convention and everything. But plus, he was hilarious. But so between him mentoring me, I would go to Herb's sets, and until we got to a point, he said, well, when I came in, because he would always do contests, and George just came in, come sit back here. Why? Because you know all the names of the records, and you're going to win the prizes, and you're going to go to kill somebody, so they can win. So that's kind of how I got it. I'm living my best life. I get to interview cats like Elmore, and I've interviewed the Isleys, I've interviewed so many folks, and I think I get along with them because I don't put myself on their level. I'm a fan. I'm going to their shows, they be warming up, and I say, you gonna play blah, 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 blah. But we did that 4 or 5 years. You wasn't really, I'm a fan first. I love to be in the blues, rhythm and blues, jazz, which I'm really just learning. I love music, and I love the artists and the artistry, and I know the effort, the time, and the patience, and the ridicule. Like my mom used to always tell me, I'm a white kid playing all that music, you ain't gonna never do nothing with it. And she said it all the time, and it didn't stop me. So I know what they want to do. So I'm a fan, and I want to know, what was you thinking of when you wrote this song? Did you feel this hurt, or you saw somebody else feel this hurt and stuff? And I think that's kind of what makes me a pretty decent DJ. Because I kind of feel what y'all, I asked the questions I think you guys would ask if you was in there, because I'm coming from a strictly fan basis, because I've been listening to them for years. And I say all the time, if I wasn't on radio, I'd be doing the same thing, and well, you know this, I'd be doing the same thing in my living room, wouldn't get $1, I'd just be buying records and playing music, because I love music, no matter gospel, whatever. And, and I agree with the gospel and blues. It's like, the grandfather and the grandfather and things like that. That's why your Johnny Taylors, your Sam Cooks, your Felipe Wins, your Aretha Franklins, all of them came. Most artists that I interviewed started in the church, and they were singing in the choir, and then they went there, and most of them went through a thing. because they were saying, how could you sing, because the blues was the devil's music. You know, why are you singing that? But there was something that made them come out, and it wasn't money, it's just their voice. Mahalia Jackson, her stylings, it was so different and so soulful and so feeling. It wasn't, oh, Mary, don't you? She was, whoa, and they folks was, how you dare do that? And she was blasphemed for a long time because of that. But their skills and their craft and their love of music made them go on and do that. And, you know, Sam went through the same thing because, you know, when Sam was doing gospel concert, you would have thought you was at Elvis Presley concert because women were going wild and going crazy, and eventually went up to that. But you can't have one without the other. You got to get your roots, and gospel is usually the roots, or blues is the roots, or a combination of the two. And it ain't nothing out here original.
Thank you. We were just.
That all of this stuff came from someplace. You know, I'm sure you heard your grand, you will play a whole record, and they'll say, that's Beyonce, you playing, they stole that from Beyonce. No, Beyonce stole that from the Shy And they don't realize, and that's the thing about
Curtis
music.
Mayfield.
And I'm with Bonnie on to not get it homogenized and not let white people steal it. I go off all the time. When an album came out 15 years ago, it was called Rod Stewart, the man who invented soul. Give me a break. Give me a break. How Rod Stewart invented soul? You know, same thing. Elvis, Jackie Wilson. It's a documentary, and they got Jackie on one side and Elvis on the other, and you can see him. He's doing everything that Jackie was doing. And we need to let our kids know that it originated from us. It didn't originate from Rod Stewart or Michael Bolton or folks like that. They need to know about the Isley Brothers, Brooks Benton, great singers, because if we don't, Little Richard, shut your mouth. But Little Richard, but if we don't pass it on and tell them and let them hear the real deal, they're gonna grow up thinking that these white guys invented this or they brought it out. That no, it's a lie. So if our legacy ain't nothing else, our legacy should be making sure our kids know where our music came from.
What the Bible always say, there's nothing new under the sun.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You better preach that one.
Amen.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting the Isley Brothers also. Ron and Ernest. They was at George's music room.
Oh, wow.
I was in George's music room, and it was, and they were saying they not letting if you're not buying a record, you can't see them. I said, okay. I said, how long they gonna be here? And the guy said, they're gonna be here about 90 minutes. So it gave me time to run home. I went home, and I got all their albums, because they got all of them. Okay. And when I went back, and when Ron saw that album with all 5 of them on there, he went ballistic. He said, I got the hat. He wanted the album. And I told him, no, you can't have it. Because his wife was there with him at that time, Angela Winbush. And she took pictures. That was before we had camera phones and everything, you know. But we end up, he said, let her back here. And I had my daughter and her girlfriend with us, let them back here. We partied with them till about 12 o'clock that night, right up there at George's music room. On Roosevelt.
That's my guy. He's a great guy. He's a character.
Beautiful.
He's a character, but George Daniels is down there. He's a beautiful person, and if somebody you want to know some history from, George is the guy. He's the guy to go to. And Ron, I never met Ernie, but I have met Ron, and he was honest. He sit down and talk with you, talk about the movie. I did get the pleasure in interviewing their nephew Chris Jasper, who is a great guy. When they had Isley Jasper, husband, but that last one, it's your thing. From It's Your Thing to Who's That Lady, that's Isley Jasper, and that's when they're really heyday. But not really their heyday, because way back in Shout and Twist and Shout and the original Who's That Lady. But again, we don't know the history of our artists, and we gotta be stringent on that. And you know, in libraries, they need to have a real blues section and a soul section, not the latest thing by Jay-Z or the latest thing. And I ain't down in them, because they recognize those artists, they pay them good money to sample, and a good wolf story. How many people remember Shindig back in the day when Shindig came on? You remember that? That's too far back. It used to be like, it was two music shows. There was Shindig and there was Hullabaloo. And one came on Monday, one came on Tuesday. And other than Ed Sullivan, that's the only shows you could see, you know, musical acts from. And that was like in the beginning of the British invasion with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and that. And they asked the Stones to be on Shindig. And the Stones said, we'll do the show, but Howlin Wolf got to be on the show with us, or we ain't gonna do the show. And a lot of them came back and brought them back, because, and the difference between them and the white guys that learned in the city, they learned, the Beatles and the Stones, they learned from listening to Howlin Wolf's records and copying, to whereas like Eric Clapton and Steve Miller, they actually worked and was tutored by Wolf and Muddy and Sumlin and guys like Carl. Steve, they actually, like going to school, they sat down with them and got them, and when they made it big, they reached back out and pulled them up there with them, and that's when the blues got, I don't want to get Bonnie started. I don't want to get Bonnie started, but I understand what she's saying, because they getting the sun, but the, you know, the stars and the roots are the Chicago and the South and the Southern blues guys, and not, because I know you want to say
Yeah,
something.
I do want to say something. Maybe they did somewhat reach back, but now that's not happening.
Okay.
In other words, now, if you look up blues festivals around the country, you'll find it's like 80–90% white acts. Now, why is this? They go around saying, oh, black people don't like the blues. Well, the real problem is that the promoters of these festivals don't know how to reach out to black people.
Yes.
I mean, this is
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's really what the problem is. It's
Is
not
that they don't
It's
know
not that they don't know
how?
how.
It's
They
they
don't
don't
want to.
They don't. Yeah,
Okay.
Because I mean, we
Yeah,
say
because like I say,
We
when I
get
went to
counted
the,
out just about everything.
when I went to the,
We get counted out.
Gospel Fest, oh, it was packed, from the hub all the way to the grass. But when it had the play, well, it wasn't really a play, it was a dance play, and it had Call Me By My Name, empty. Empty.
Okay, so they didn't,
Empty.
that's the promotion. And
Right.
they're not promoting it properly.
Yeah.
Right.
And they are interested evidently in it being promoted properly, they just look for the buck or for the bag.
Right, but like I say, it was free. All these events was free.
Right.
But like I say, that one was not promoted at all, because like I say, it was just a handful of people. Just a handful.
Well, the first time they had this Soul Blues Fest up here on Chicago Avenue, hardly any promotion.
that's true.
Of
I
course,
was there.
that
Yes.
was at the end of or the middle and the end of Corona, and there was just chaos. So, you know, we have to forgive them, but the next year they did have better promotion, but the lot was way too small. And now this year they're talking about not having the Soul Blues Fest. So I think lobbying needs to happen. The community needs to say, we do want this.
We want it.
And this is how we want it, because they, you know, they'll just put something out there, and then maybe they need more input from here.
From what I heard, Miss Bonnie, is that they want to have it, but they want to take it off of Chicago and Mayfield, and they want to put it someplace else, where it started in the Soul City. So, yeah, but they want to have it, but they want to move it, from my understanding, to someplace else. No.
I think, I would like to see it be in a black business district.
Where it
That-
is
I
fine.
think that, if you want to bring the blues back, you need to have permanent locations. The festivals are great.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. I want to see if y'all feel that way too.
That's true.
And a lot of
That's
people are
true.
looking forward to that. They looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And Wolf's daughter said the same thing. They said it should be somewhere in Chicago that we can touch Wolf's guitar, or we can see Jimmy Reed's harmonica, or it's, like when you go to the Saba Museum, the Museum of Science and Industry, it's got their history,
Right.
maybe a statue or picture or film clips running, and you can see that, because if you can't go there and touch it and feel it and be engulfed in it, then you don't know. And if they're going to claim Chicago the home of the blues, it needs to be a blues museum in Chicago. And even though I'm from the south side, I think it should be on the west side.
Well, when the city did come in, because I was there when they first had the first one in the planning. And the people that came to plan on Chicago Avenue, they didn't look like us. The people from downtown, they didn't look like us. But they came to us, Malcolm Crawford, and, and I had the privilege of being able to sit in when they were trying to do that when they were doing the walkthrough. But yeah, the people that come in our communities, they come and they tell us what we want and what we need to see. And I think sometimes it becomes too black. And they don't want to hear us because we too black. I ain't saying Negro, I ain't saying African American. I'm
But
saying
you
black.
can't have something about the black experience without
Black.
black input.
There,
What
that's
can they tell us about being black, or how we feel about black, or about our blackness?
There you
I mean,
go.
you just assuming, I raised my daughter on my own. I'll give you a good example. I raised my daughter on my own. I did a great job until monthly came. And then I panicked, and I'm calling my sister because I don't know nothing about being no woman. I can read books, I can do everything, but I ain't never gonna be no woman. Well, they ain't gonna never be black.
That's right.
I know that, and you know that, but the system says that because I've been around you, and I've lived in the black community, and then I can go back and tell other people that I've lived in urban America, in Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, that I've been around them, that they become experts on us, about us. And I tell everybody all the time, I was born black, I live black, and I'm gonna die black.
We have to advocate for ourselves without looking to other people to do it for us.
Yeah.
That's our problem. That is our problem.
But
We
can
always look to
I
others.
just say this?
But
That
we-
has been taken care of. The bank building on Chicago Avenue and Laramie
Yes, ma'am.
is supposed to have a blues museum in there.
That's,
And I was asked to be one of the
I don't
ones
think
that
that's
set up
really
the-
happening though, is it?
Pardon me?
Is that really happening? Because they never get back to me
It's
when
in
I
writing.
ask. Yeah, but it
That is supposed to
hasn't
be a
developed
blues
that way.
museum inside.
Yes, I know, the original
And
proposal.
you fight for it. See,
We're gonna have to
we
wind
have
this
to
up,
fight for
everybody,
it.
but keep talking. And if you all would like to be on my mailing list for future blues programs, if you're not on it, please come and see me, I'll write your name down. Thank you, Mr. Carl.
You're quite welcome. Love you.
Thank you, everybody. Keep talking.